Morning. Welcome to our regular scheduled Board of Commissioners meeting, October 4th, 2021. If you will, join me for a moment of silent prayer. Amen. If you would, we stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I will declare the public hearing for fiscal year 23 Community Transportation Program Capital 5310 and capital call for projects grant applications open at this time. We will turn it over to you.
Okay. Harrison County Area Transportation System is required annually to complete the Community Transportation Grant application and capital call for project application for this year's 2022-2023 by October the 8th. We're required to hold a public hearing on the proposed project to allow members of the community the opportunity to comment on the transportation needs of the grant application. We are requesting to replace our current camera equipment on our buses and to have the equipment for our two-way radios updated, installed on the tower in our FY23 capital grant application. And we're requesting administrative funding in the 5311 CTP grant application. The capital 5310 purchase of service objective is to provide transportation services that meet the special needs of elderly persons and persons with disabilities to whom mass transportation services are unavailable, insufficient, or inappropriate. We need to have a motion made by a board member and seconded by another board member for the adoption of the section 5311 CTP application and capital call for project programs, the resolution, and the 5311 designee certification, and put to a vote to duly adopt the resolution and the 5311 designee certification. We are requesting in this all of this grant application together $185,338 funding from the state. So that's what we're here for, to present the three different grant applications to bring funding into the county for the transportation system.
Any board members have any questions?
And we won't be using any, tax dollars, but the matches will all be for our enterprise funds.
Hearing no questions. Are there any in the public who wish to speak on this matter? Public hearing? No, I will declare the public hearing closed. And at this time, we will need to take action on this matter. So I need a motion. We have a motion to approve the project grant application. Second. And a second. Any comments, discussion? We will need to do roll call voting, understand? So we'll do that. Commissioner Carter, Commissioner Davidson, Commissioner Hall, Commissioner Jeffrey, Commissioner McVeigh, Commissioner Oestreicher, Commissioner Holman, aye. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. This time we will go into our public comments section. Landon Woods. And please, as you come up, please give your name and your address, please. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Landon Woods, 4810 Old Highway 86 North. That's Yanceyville. I just want to speak today because I am against the zoning bill presented. And the reasons are the effects it will have on small business development. I'm surrounded by small business owners. My next door neighbor is a gunsmith. another one a carpenter, and another one started his own CPA practice. And all of these people started from home. And I'm concerned about the future development of small businesses here in the county because of this bill. I've spoken with many people. Some of them will come up here and speak maybe today, but have in the past that are in support of this bill. And then when they are told the implications it means on future small business development, they are strongly against that part of the bill. So I think we need to dive in and look at the details of this and protect the rights of the property of individuals in this county. Also, I have 50 signatures. None of them are which are mine or my family's that are against the bill. And also, last year, December 21st, 2020, the HIDA or High Impact Development Ordinance was passed. And in that policy, no building should be over 40 feet. It has to be on a 800-acre plot. And this is for large class 4 properties such as coal plants, nuclear plants, asphalt plants. And we have to ask ourselves, will any of these large corporations that everyone is against when they're spoken of, will any of them be under 40 feet? Will any of them be able to have a plot of land that has 7 football fields in every direction and have roadfront property as well? So I think that we've kind of killed that proposition of these large polluting businesses coming to the county. So now we have to look at what this bill really means, and that is it's stifling small businesses and small business growth in the county. Thank you.
Mr. Thompson, Steve Thompson.
Good morning. My name is Steve Thompson. I live at 1232 Jones Road, Pelham, North Carolina. And I'm here to express my views in opposition of the proposed zoning. First of all, there was a considerable amount of signatures turned in last week of people that were against that. Did y'all receive that information?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have additional 50+ signatures in opposition of that also. Where I live at is not being affected by the zoning at this time. But I feel like that if this does pass, it will be a stepping stone for the rest of the county. If you look at, people that are being affected and the people that we're talking to and discussing, I run into a lot more people that are opposed than are for this. One of the things that we have some questions to the commissioners. We kind of look at this as maybe the cart got before the horse when you start proposing zoning and come up with the thoughts and the process of making this happen. One of the questions that we had, and this is to the commissioners, is how much is the zoning going to cost the county? I feel like that these questions and anything else that comes up dealing with zoning should be, the people should know about it. Will there be a zoning director, or will there be any assistance to go along with that? Will there be any additional vehicles or equipment that needs to be purchased for the zoning to take place? And if so, when it gets down to the actual handling and saying yay and nay when it is a proposed zoning, who is going to enforce it when things not go as they should? So, I'm not against things being done in the future if it's done in an orderly manner and it's here to serve everybody in the whole county. But just to come up and say, we're going to zone one small area in the beginning, I don't feel that is appropriate. And I also see that is just an indicator of things to come for the rest of the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas Wright.
My name is Thomas Wright, for 559 George Russell Road, Gainesville, North Carolina. I was coming with it to ask the chairman for it, put me on the agenda for the next meeting. And I want you to have Mr. Thomas Bernard here for the answers for questions for me. I want you to hear the answers. Because I ain't getting nothing out of them. I can't even see nothing. That's all I have.
Thank you. Jimmy Dodson.
My name is James Dodson. I've lived all my life in this county. I grew up here. And I'm against zoning because I don't like nobody telling me what I can do with my land and what I can't. I worked hard to get it, really hard. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Dr. Martinelli.
Dr. Martinelli, 2235 Gunpool Road. Thank you all for being here. Commissioners, appreciate your work. As a rule, as I mentioned last week, I'm against zoning. I don't like people telling me what I'm going to do with my property that I don't earn. I hate it even more when the people who I'm going to sell my property to or the people around me are going to bring me a business that's going to pollute my air, going to pollute my soil, going to pollute my water. That's what I have to say. I'm for zoning. Commissioners, respectfully, you were elected to protect and serve. We need you to do that today. We need to vote for zoning. I had an aha moment driving in today. Turned on to the road, all of a sudden it says, school zone. That's zoning. We need to protect our community. Please make sure you vote for zoning. Thank you.
Mr. Zimmerman.
Good morning, my name is Mark Zimmerman, I live in Leesburg. I'm going to speak briefly about three things. Why zoning, why this zoning, and why now? First, there is no debate about zoning in Caswell County. That debate was decided 3 decades ago when the county and municipalities adopted zoning protection. The question before you today is, should the citizens of Southeast Caswell County also be granted that zoning protection? If you care about serving constituents, the answer to that question is an easy yes. For 2 years, at meeting after meeting, you've heard almost exclusively from people passionately pleading for zoning protection. A strong majority of us voted for it. As I'm sure you know, we live in a time when, too often, our federal government ignores the people they were elected to serve. They rule as they see fit. The government in Caswell County should be better than that. Don't turn your backs on us. Don't ignore our voices. Vote yes for the zoning protections we've been asking for. Second, is this a good zoning protection plan? Of course it is. It grew out of what is good about Caswell. It preserves our specialness. This plan protects our homes, neighborhoods, and communities. This plan puts farming and small business at its center. It embodies our Caswell County lives. It also prevents outsiders from wreaking havoc on our values. It says no to those who would shatter our quality of life, who would trample our property rights, who would decimate our property values. Will that really happen? Well, it's already started. 2 communities are under assault right now. Dozens of landowners will see their property values plummet, savings and livelihoods lost, generations of legacy gone. Third, why zoning now? Because we are so vulnerable. We are surrounded on all sides by extreme growth. Just as the primary responsibility of the president is to keep us safe from foreign actors who seek to harm us, so it is your job to keep us safe from outsiders who would change this county into something we don't recognize. Today, you can protect us from them by voting yes on zoning protections. If you vote no, you'll be putting a bright target on Caswell. You'll be leaving the pasture gate and barn doors open to the coyotes. You'll be giving up control of Caswell's future to those who don't care about the county or us. If you vote no, the people celebrating most tonight will be outsiders as they are counting the profits that they can extract from us. They will be laughing all the way to the bank. Stop them from celebrating by voting yes today for zoning protections. This is a good plan that respects who we are and what we do. Listen to the people, do your duty by protecting us from those who would harm us. Vote yes so we can be in control of our future and keep Caswell the place we all love. As always, thank you for your service. It's time to leave.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'll take 2 times anyway. My name is Leslie Zimmerman. I live in Leesburg, southeastern Caswell. I think by now you know where I stand on this zoning agenda item. I first addressed you on the need for zoning protections in southeast Caswell County 2 years ago. I haven't kept track of how often I've reminded you, but I'm sure you're tired of hearing from me. So, as I stand before you today, I make you this promise. Vote yes on zoning protections this morning, and this will be the last time you hear from me about zoning. And I won't show up on your doorstep like others have. You will be giving us the protections we desperately need, and therefore doing a good thing for the future of Caswell County. But you'll have the added benefits of shorter meetings. It's time, I think you know that. And I trust you will vote what is best for the people and not what is best for you. Thank you for listening throughout this process. Don't hesitate to vote yes.
Thank you. This time, I'll clerk public comment section. Close.
Mr. Chair, if you mind, I didn't put my name on the list. Would you allow me to speak? Sometimes you say, is there anybody else? If you can't, it's okay. I won't, but sometimes you do say that. It's okay.
I asked before, were you here before the meeting? I asked if you wanted to.
Yeah, I did.
Well, let's pass it.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, any recognitions? Many board members. All right, we need to approve the agenda, the motion. Have a motion, need a second, and a second. All those in favor by roll call voting. Commissioner Carter. Commissioner Dickinson. Commissioner Hall. Commissioner Jeffries. Commissioner Day. Commissioner Ostriker. Commissioner Holman. Are there any, will the first September 2021 regular meeting minutes, are there any corrections needed to be made to that?
I would like to ask that we put that vote off on the minutes until next meeting. My laptop's been messed up and I haven't had an opportunity to really look at them, so I'd like to be able to read through them. It's too hard to do it on my phone.
The objection to put those off to the meeting?
I'm sorry, I cannot hear. I couldn't hear that.
I'm asking that we put the approval of the minutes from the last meeting off till next meeting because we have problems with the emails and the laptop system in the county, and my laptop is coming back to me today, but I haven't had a chance to look at it, so I'm going to put it off until I have.
Thank you for speaking to the microphone. That's perfect.
Is that the vote for those 60 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Any objection to that? Madam Clerk, we'll add those back to the next meeting then. Discussion items, Caswell County districting. Miller.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. The first thing I have on the agenda for discussion today is redistricting. NCGS 153A-22 provides a method for redefining electoral districts after a decennial census. Counties in North Carolina are tasked with drawing electoral district lines for those counties that choose to elect members from electoral districts and require the representatives to reside in the district for which they are elected. The Board of Commissioners determines the district lines for the Board of Commissioners, and the Board of Education determines the district lines for the Board of Education, and so on and so forth. I informed the board of these events several months ago. Since that time, we've engaged the Piedmont Triad Regional Council of Governments to redraw those lines according to population. I believe PTRC did a great job with their initial proposed redistricting when considering only population. However, I would recommend the board review the information attached, consider the unique attributes of Caswell County, and provide input on the board input on the Board of Commissioners' priorities for redistricting. I would also suggest the board recess this meeting or schedule a special work session for Thursday or Friday morning of this week to finalize the electoral district map and schedule a public hearing on the new electoral districts for the second meeting in October. Generally speaking, the electoral district should consist of an equal number of residents. For casual, that magic number is 4,547. To stay within a 5% deviation from that number, ideally a district may contain as few as 4,433 members or as many as 4,657 members. Anywhere between that 5 and 10% is a very gray area. Anything over 10% puts the county at an increased risk for legal action to be taken against the county. Currently, the difference between our largest and smallest districts are 17 and 14% respectively. This process should be completed no later than the first meeting in November. If we can achieve that goal, it will allow approximately 2 weeks for the GIS data to be compiled and presented to the Board of Elections, along with the resolution before the November 17th deadline. Somewhere between the existing electoral districts and the proposed electoral districts, I'm sure there's a solution that's right for Castle County. If you as board members have any questions, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. But I would urge you to consider a work session to go through all the information.
Any questions? Comments? Okay, we need to, what we'll do is, we have two choices. We can recess this meeting and hold a special meeting just for redistricting later this week. Or we could appoint a committee of commissioners, more than 3, to work with the county manager and the planner and others, to go over that plan and look at it and see how it could be redrawn. What we have to remember is when we move a line, we have to consider who lives within that line and how it changes the percentages on who lives in that district. And so we will have to have some numbers. We'll have to look specifically at those numbers and how it will change if we move a line. So it's up to the board how you want to proceed with this, whether we all want to be in on it and just do a special meeting, or whether you would rather see a committee. Any thoughts?
I think we all need to be involved in it, because just like my district, with the new proposed bias plan, leaves my district in the policy and forward. In other words, anything now east of Gansel is in another district, but now in this new proposed district, it takes in Gansel and everything west, through West Gansel up to Highway 150, then it converts back left. So I would like to do a work session on it, and maybe if we can move the lines a little bit so we keep the West Gansel in the District 2.
Okay. Address the board.
Well, I think it'd be a good idea to go look at the map.
In your mind.
But I think it'd be a good thing to both take a look at this and get your eye and lay it out and see exactly what it will be.
I'm sorry, I'm not.
Yeah.
You might be here.
I think it'd be a good idea to go vote on, look at it before we take and decide to do it. Well.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Is that okay with everybody? We'll have a special work session just for the redistricting. Very well. I guess just poll the board and what day would suit you better this week? We need to go ahead and look through this process because believe it or not, November 17th will be here before we vote. So
And I'll reiterate, even after the board decides what they want, there's still a lot of work on the back end that needs to be done before this can be presented to the Board of Election.
Okay. Get it right month here. So how's, is Thursday good?
Thursday and Friday this week, both are out for me. They should do it maybe late Friday evening. I don't know, it's out for me Thursday and Friday.
How about the rest of you? What days are good for you?
Wednesday or Thursday is good for me.
I'll stay away from Monday.
Wednesday would have to be in the evening, be either morning, early morning, or evening.
How long do you anticipate this meeting going?
It could go a while, to be honest, because we're gonna have to look at those numbers very thoroughly, especially where the lines are presently in this new map.
The map that you have here is the existing districts.
Right.
I think evening's probably better.
Those are the proposed districts that I've now put up.
Wednesday evening is not good.
Evening would be what?
Tomorrow would be
Did
good.
you hear, Dave, did you hear us Wednesday evening?
Yeah, I can go to Wednesday evening, but I just can't go Thursday, Friday.
Wednesday evening is not good.
Tuesday evening, tomorrow, will they give you time to prepare what you need to prepare?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
You will? Okay. Tuesday evening, tomorrow evening,
Tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening? Yeah.
because we got site in North Carolina, so we can't go in the morning, because Commissioner Hall are involved in that. All right, give me a Tuesday? Tuesday? It'd be the late afternoon or evening one. Time, it's okay, give me a time. 6:30?
5.
No, that's too early, that's stuff.
I think 5 minutes better, start a little earlier, maybe we can get out of here and not be here till the midnight hour.
Five 30?
What time do we get on?
I can make it back by 5.
5 o'clock?
Either way, for me.
5 o'clock. You good? Okay, 5 o'clock.
Here,
That's tomorrow.
I assume here, Mr. Miller, or will it be back open?
Actually, we should probably have it in a place a little bit better suited. I'll contact the library director and see if we can have it in the library, tomorrow afternoon when we, take a break. And then when you recess, you can recess to a date and time.
Okay.
Sir.
All right. You write this down so I don't forget. We will know before the end of the meeting. Okay. All right, moving on to our action items. Number 9, zoning in Southeast Castle. No.
Commissioners, the Board of Commissioners and staff have completed all requirements for zoning the southeast portion of Castle County. The Board of Commissioners has the authority to either zone the areas indicated on the zoning maps according to the proposed plan, amend the maps and the plan, or leave the affected areas without zoning. So at this point in time, it's in your hands as a board. So the county planners here, we're happy to answer any questions you may have about the map, about the plan, about anything that you'd like to know about zoning.
Commissioner Striker?
Commissioners, on last Friday, I sent each of you an email with the amended, if you will, zoning ordinance and maps compared to the information that was available as a public hearing on the 27th. I'll read that to you and explain, just in case you didn't see it. Hello, Commissioners. After voluminous input from public comments, public hearings, community meetings, resident comments, etc., the most recent version of the Southeast Caswell Conditional District Zoning Ordinance was ever so slightly amended to the version attached to this email. Changes were to one, these are not necessarily in the order. Change the light industry zone name to general business. Inclusion of small businesses in the table of permitted uses to further open new business opportunities. 3, added definitions of small business and home-based businesses. 4, reduce the number of general business zones to 3 to avoid potential spot zoning issues. Adding small businesses in both zones, both agriculture and residential and general business, makes it easy for current and new businesses to operate, locate to the Southeast Caswell District. Please review the ordinance and accompanying maps in advance of our meeting on Monday, October 4th, 2021. I want to pass on some notable comments from the public hearing for your consideration. Quote, Dr. David Owen of the UNC School of Government said, the basic premise of land use law is that no one has the absolute right to use his or her property in the way that may harm the public health, welfare, or damage their neighbor's quality of life. Second quote, and this one's from the heart, from a citizen in the proposed zone area. I think you all know who it was. In deference, I won't give her name right now, but if you want to know who it was, I'll tell you. Every time I have come before Caswell County Commissioners, I have felt blank stares of disgust. My heart races and my blood pressure rises. Most of you appear to have your ears plugged and show no care or concern for your landowners and taxpayers of the southeastern corner of Caswell County. You people couldn't care less if our entire environment in the southeastern Caswell County is polluted and or destroyed. It makes me sick at my stomach. I go to sleep with this horror on my mind and wake with the same thing. Why would anyone think that any part of this was ever a good idea? All we have continued to ask for is protection. Zoning is our only protection. Other parts of our county have benefited from zoning protections. We voted for it. Why can't you vote yes for zoning? I also have available presentation I made to the planning board with statements from their initial recommendations and from the public hearing, if you would like to see some more information on it. And I may subject it to you. I may subject you to it anyway.
Right? What's the pleasure of the board?
One request. Mr. Miller, could you read the last letter from the planning board, the final statement they put out on this issue?
Chairman Owen, the Castle County Planning Board held a special meeting on September 17th, 2021, in order to discuss Castle County zoning. During our meeting, the planning board approved a motion to rescind the motion that was made at our meeting on August 24th, 2021, that related to the planning board's determination of consistency and adoption of the zoning plan presented to us by the Castle County Board of Commissioners. The planning board also approved a motion of recommendation to the Board of Commissioners that they will honor the will of the voters and not adopt a zoning ordinance for Castle County. Please let me know if you have any questions. Sincerely, Castle County, sincerely, Russell Johnson, Chairman, Castle County.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller, would you please read the first letter that the planning board sent to us?
Excuse me just a second, I'll have you finish. Thank you. I would like to say that this issue was settled by a countywide referendum on zoning. Nothing in that referendum alluded to district zoning. The voters have clearly spoken, and as representatives of the voters, we are obliged to respect their wishes. And I will respect the will of the people on this issue, and I'll put a note on zoning.
I would like to add to that letter that during that meeting, when that motion was made, the second motion, that one of the members of the planning board asked the rest of the members of the planning board, if they had identified any inconsistencies with the land use plan of Caswell County. None were mentioned. The planning board's only obligation was to review the ordinance for consistency with the land use plan, not to voice their personal opinion. I would also, at this time, if I can figure out how, like to go through the presentation that I gave to the planning board. And if I could have some help. Yes. Well.
Show all.
I would just ask Mr. Striker, let's move this as quick as we can.
Go as easily as I can.
Thank you, sir.
There's only about a dozen slides. Sure. All right, this is the map, the proposed area, the Southeast Caswell District zoning ordinance. The purposes of establishing the zoning districts are to implement adopted plans, promote public health, safety, and general welfare, provide for orderly growth and development, to provide for the efficient use of resources, to preserve the area's existing character and quality of life, to facilitate the adequate provision of services. Here's a timeline that starts in mid-2019, where citizens in the southeast Caswell area started community meetings and started asking the commissioners for zoning. In December, when that non-binding zoning referendum was put on the ballot. In January, a one-year moratorium on polluting industry development takes effect. In April, a large group of residents asked the Board of Commissioners to implement zoning for the southeast quadrant. In November, the results of the non-binding referendum were tabulated. And here are those results. Once again, the referendum said, should the Caswell County Board of Commissioners adopt a countywide zoning ordinance to implement zoning regulations for all unincorporated areas of Caswell County? And here's the votes. Here's a graphical representation of those votes, with orange being the areas that voted for zoning, and the, whatever you call that, green colored, light green area that voted no. In the orange area, the southeast quadrant, the yes vote was 54% in favor, 46% vote no. Once again, this was for countywide zoning. I will make the comment that I don't believe it's a huge leap of intellect to go from countywide zoning to just zoning for my area. I think that's what's represented. And I think we've heard literally 1,000 comments to that effect. The moratorium on polluting industry extended for 6 months in January 2021. Motion for conditional zoning for the southeast quadrant proceed with the proposed plan passed. Board of Commissioners 4-3. On July 21st, it was sent to the Planning Board for consistency with land use plan and recommendation. You heard the results of those. In September 27th, last Monday, public hearing was held. Here's a summary of the key aspects, facets, points of the zoning ordinance. There's only 2 zoning districts: residential agricultural and general business. Pursuant to North Carolina law, regulation of agriculture is exempt from zoning regulations and has been since 1966. Current land usage in compliance with existing UDO and North Carolina laws is unaffected. In other words, hunting, land use, home color design, etc., are not impacted by the Southeast Caswell County Conditional District Zone. Further, Caswell has had experience with zoning for over 50 years without issues. The Hyco Lake zoning district, the northeast quadrant, Yanceyville, and Milton. Another point, landowners may sell their property to whomever they wish. Conditional zoning allows for land uses currently unforeseen. Section 5.9 will go with it in a second. Property owners may use their land in accordance with the permitted use table, which I'll go through. And you'll notice more permitted uses even than the Hyco Lake District, and permitted uses versus special or permitted uses with supplemental regulation in the Caswell, in the Southeast District versus the Hyco. Here are those table of uses, and this is the key part of the ordinance when you get right down to it. And you can see all of these here, whereas we have some special use and things like that in the Hyco zoning, which has been in effect without incident for at least 30 years. I'll point out some of the key ones here in the next slide. Basically, when you get right down to it, the only area that is not permitted, not allowed, is industries classified as class 3 or 4 from the HIDO. And here are those industries: asphalt plants, chemical manufacturing, explosive storage facilities, paper mills, racetracks, mining and quarry, resource extraction, cement manufacturing, coal ash storage, nuclear waste storage. Home-based businesses are permitted. You can read the definition here, may be established in a primary residence provided that no more than 50% of the total floor area of the dwelling shall be used for that occupation. In addition, home-based businesses such as small engine repair, automotive maintenance, wood and metal crafting, or similar commercial services may be established within the residential accessory buildings. These accessory buildings shall be no more than 7,500 square feet of enclosed heated floor space and must be located on the same property as the primary residence. Small businesses. We heard a comment earlier, somebody concerned about the fact that it eliminates small businesses. Couldn't be further from the truth. Small businesses are establishments which offer services to the business community or to individuals and may or may not be established on the same tract of land as a residential structure. Such businesses shall be of a commercial, retail, data management, or of a non-industrial nature and exist on the tract of land no more than 10 acres in size. And here's the rest of it. So in summary, for obtaining zoning, conditional zoning that's not covered in the agricultural residential area, property owners may apply for rezoning to a conditional zoning district. Applications submitted to the planning department, hold a community meeting, and obtain approval from the Caswell Board of County Commissioners. I put together a short list of frequently asked questions and comes right down to the end. What new restrictions does conditional district zoning protection have on what I do on my property? Virtually none. Agricultural, residential, and general business uses and activities are not impacted. Is the proposed land ordinance consistent with the Caswell County Strategic Land Use Plan? The Caswell County Planning Board found no inconsistency. What will be the impact on property values? This type of zoning protection should make land more desirable to incoming residents, developers, and industries, since they will know they will not have polluting industries sited next to their property. What impact will there be on selling my property for the best price? Without conditional district zoning, if your neighbor sells to a polluting industry, it is highly unlikely you will be able to get the best price for your property. How could conditional district zoning impact economic development? See previous Q&A. Only polluting industries, which generally negatively impact property values. Many studies that demonstrate that. And desirability are prohibited. How many other counties in North Carolina use zoning? Most North Carolina counties, 83 in North Carolina's 100 counties, have chosen to adopt comprehensive or partial zone ordinances. Caswell County is one of them. What is conditional use zoning? Conditional use zoning allows for the property owner to apply for a use different than allowed in the zone. If the use is included elsewhere in the district, the county commissioners can allow that property use subject to conditions that it decides. Can zoning dictate what my house should look like? No. State law is very clear on this. The zoning ordinance cannot regulate architectural standards or design criteria for residential properties, which are single-family homes, duplexes, etc. And I have the ordinance available to look at. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, gentlemen, we need to proceed with a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, before that motion is seconded or made, I was expecting you to allow us to have another session to be able to comment about what Mr. Ostriker has contemplated. We're out here for all this.
Go ahead, I mean, you know, we've been on this issue for 2 years, but go ahead.
Right,
Go ahead.
that's exactly my point. All the arguments on both sides, both for and against zoning, they're not the issue here today. The issue here today is that this was put before the voters in Castle County. The voters of Castle County voted down countywide zoning. And as representatives of the people in this county, I feel that we are obligated to follow the will of the people and vote this zoning proposal down. That's all I have to say.
Any other comments?
You know, we really have a hard time getting this referendum agenda. We got it on the agenda. 500 people of Calvin County said no zoning, and that's what we should have went by. Years after years, this ain't the first time this referendum been 3 times I was on this vote. Each time I've been voted down, not zoning. So I can't afford to vote for zoning. And the people said, no, I listened to the people. They put me in. And I promised them I would listen to them. And I did. I'm not gonna vote for zoning because I listened to the people. You had 500 and some people say no to zoning. If you look at your shot that you had up there, 52.33%, 3 cents said no, 47.7% said yeah. So what are we gonna do? Listen to the people, or are we gonna do what some part of Calvin County said? That's all I got to say.
Thank you. All right, I need a motion for. Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Hall.
I do need to make a comment. First, to just correct the record on a couple of things. Okay, I think I got it on now. To correct the record, when the zoning issue was added to the ballot as a referendum, all the board members present was told that it was an advisory referendum only. We fully understood that. That means we were getting input from the citizens, but not, the citizens were not making any decision. Because it was not theirs to make. It's up to this board. The rationale used by the planning board is a faulty rationale. Saying that people spoke. The rationale used by Commissioner Dickerson and Commissioner Jefferson is a faulty rationale, saying the people spoke. It was an advisory referendum only. Now, I want to go to one other thing, because we all heard the public comments. And as Commissioner Ostriker said, probably close to 1,000. But I want to go to our good neighbor policy. We heard a lot of people talk about how great a place Ccboc County is to live, and how we love our neighbor, and how our neighbors love us. But I can't understand, if we are good neighbors, why do we have so many people in the northern part of the county fighting against people in the southern part of the county? And it didn't cost them anything. If we vote for zoning in the southern part of the county, it won't harm or hurt anybody in the northern part of the county. Not so. It's just a matter of their opinion, and I don't know what else, but it's not being a good neighbor. And I think this board, as a part of our role, we are a representative government. We do not put things out for vote. One of the biggest things we do each year is a budget. We don't put it on a referendum for the citizens to vote for the budget. We do our homework, we have staff do their homework, and then we vote. So I think that we should consider the cost to the southern part of the county and the lack of a cost to the northern part of the county as we make this decision. Thank you.
All right. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'd like to make a motion.
Make that motion.
This is a motion to enact the amendments to Article 5 zoning ordinance, Southeast Caswell County Conditional District zoning ordinance, and accompanying reference maps, Southeast Caswell Anderson zoning map, Southeast Caswell Prospect Hill zoning map, Southeast Caswell Royal Park zoning map, and Southeast Caswell zoning map, as specified in the attached Article 5 zoning districts amendment, which will implement this zoning regulation within the areas shown on the map. This ordinance will take effect as of today, October 4th, 2021, with that date to be inserted in section 5.3 of the ordinance.
Okay, we have a motion, we need a second. Second. We have a second. Any further discussion? Vote by roll call voting. A yes means you're in favor of zoning Southeast County. Commissioner Carter? No. 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 Commissioner Dickerson?
No.
Commissioner Hall?
Yes.
Commissioner Jeffries?
No.
Commissioner McVeigh?
No.
Commissioner Ostriker?
Yes.
And Commissioner Owen? Yes. Motion fails. All right, this time we'll be moving on to item number 10 on the action item. That is the appointment to boards and committees. We will look at the AUC board first. We have 2 vacancies to fill. So I would need nominations for those 2 vacancies.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion for Brian Daniel and Wayne Barker to the ADC board.
Any other nominations?
Mr. Chairman, before we finish, like Commissioner Dickerson, I have had a major problem getting my emails. I got some, I think, in the agenda packet, but some of the pages were still blank. So could you read out the names of the applicants?
Okay.
So that I will know for sure.
Okay. The applications received for the ABC board are Urban Graham Haley Jr., Wayne Barker, Patricia Thompson, and Lori Green. And we need 2 out of those 4. Vote on 2, yes, sir. And we have Urban Graham Haley Jr. nominated and Wayne Barker. Any other nominations?
Mr. Chairman, could we take just a second and so I can get up the summary? I don't have a summary. Make it easy to find.
My understanding, County Manager, that at the last meeting, regular board meeting, this board decided to increase the number of the ABC board from 3 to 5. That is correct, right?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
I wasn't here. Y'all voted to increase the number to 5. No, we need 2 now. That's 3, so we need 2 more. So what are you looking for, Commissioner Stryker?
that piece of paper, that list.
I have,
One, would you give me yours? Copy, please.
That's the application.
That's, I'm talking about that list.
well, I have that too.
You can have mine.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So we have 3 that are appointed, and we need to vote on 2 more. We have 2 nominated, Mr. Bailey and Mr. Walker. Any other nominations?
I nominate
All right, we have Patricia Thompson nominated. At this time, we will proceed with the voting, and what I will do is go to each commissioner, and you call out the 2 that you would like to see, okay? And we'll start with Commissioner Dickerson.
The last lady that you read, Patricia
Thompson.
I vote for her and for Mr. Davis.
Okay, I will give you time to make sure our clerk gets that information, okay? Commissioner Hall.
I missed the name that you gave me.
It's Irvin Green Daly Jr., Wayne Barker, Patricia Thompson, and Lori Reed.
Patricia Thompson. And, Graham.
Commissioner Jeffries. Okay, I will do Mr. Daly and Wayne Barker. Commissioner McDade.
I'm gonna do Mr. Daly and Wayne Barker.
Commissioner Ostrowski.
My recommendation is Graham Daly and Wayne Barker.
Mr. Carter.
Graham Daly and Wayne Barker.
I'll give them just a minute to count that. Make sure we don't have a tie. And then we'll proceed with the other ones.
Okay, that's 7 votes for Daly.
Speak up.
That's 7 votes for Daly, 4 votes for Barker, and 3 votes for Patricia Thompson. So the 2 top would be Daly and Barker.
Okay, thank you. The next one that we have an application for is the Board of Health. We have 1 vacancy, and the applicants are Michelle Gaskins and Patricia Thompson. And we have 1 vacancy.
Mr. Chairman, if I'm not,
Is that a required
I think that's a required
nursing position? I meant to ask you that before the meeting, I apologize for that. So the only one that we have on this list that's nursing is Michelle Gaskins, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Michelle Gaskins?
I'll second.
Okay. All right. All right. So it's unanimous, Michelle. The next one is the Honeymoon Advisory Committee. We have 1 vacancy and 1 application. The application is from Mr. Steve Harris. So we will proceed to vote on that. I'll just go around, Mr. Carter, you just yea or nay? Yes. Commissioner Stryker?
We're voting for Glenn.
No, we're voting for the Honeymoon Advisory Committee, which is Steve Harris.
Nay.
Commissioner McVeigh, Commissioner Owens, yea. Commissioner Jeffries is yea. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay. 60. The next one is the JCPC. And I believe, I don't have that sheet, but I believe there's only one vacancy. And we have one application. And that one application is Ms. Gwen Vaughn, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So we'll just start down here with Commissioner Dickerson. You can just yea or nay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Unanimous. And I believe this is the last one that we have to do today, the Tourism Development Authority. And we have one vacancy and one application. And that application is from Amanda Hodges, which okay. All right. Commissioner Carter, yea, nay? Yes. Commissioner Stryker?
Yay.
Commissioner McVeigh? Commissioner Cohen, yea. Commissioner Jeffries? Commissioner Paul? Commissioner Dixon?
No.
Nay. Okay. All right. And I believe that's all the boards and committees that we had applications turned in. We're going to take a quick recess.
Nice seeing you here.
Next action item is number 11, payment to the Board of Adjustments. Bill?
Commissioners, the Board of Adjustments has requested payment of payments of $20 per meeting per member. They've also requested the Board of Commissioners appoint alternates for the Board of Adjustments to ensure continuity of operations in the event of regular members' absence or recusal from a vote. Both state general statute and our county's UDO provide for the appointment of such alternate members. I will tell you that this would increase the planning department's budget by roughly $1,000 per year. The Board of Adjustments meets on an as-needed basis, so this may vary from year to year.
Okay, I understand, and we'll take these items separately, gentlemen. The first one will be the compensation part. My understanding is that was not a unanimous decision, it was for this, which is required, I believe. But anyway, I believe the chairman voted against it. And I really don't know that. It was four that voted for the compensation, one did not. And deep down, I really don't have a major problem. I would really like for us to wait on this, since it's not an emergency, since it's not something to budget, but that's neither here nor there either. I will say they knew when they signed up for this board that there was no compensation at the time. But this is, of course, up to the board. I think the first part of visiting properties, I can understand that being a reason. The second part, conducting an independent study. I know that there are boards that we have that members do all kinds of working and going, and they're not reimbursed for in any way. And one is Farmer Lake Board, I'll just use that as an example. I know many of those do a lot of things for that board and for the county. They're never reimbursed for. They do it on their own time. They do it, they're going and getting material and that sort of thing. But anyway, that's just mine. So we'll deal with this one first, okay? So if there are any other comments, and then we'll need a motion as to what we do. No other comments, then we need a motion. Proceed.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I move that we do not provide compensation to the members of the Board of Adjustment.
Okay, do we have a second? Hearing no second, that motion fails. Do we have any other motions? Hearing no motion, we will.
How much compensation?
$20 for each meeting. How many, could you give me a rough 5 meetings a year?
They have met, they had one training session in January, and they had 3 regular meetings since then. So more or less 4 meetings so far this year. We do have another meeting scheduled for the 3rd Tuesday of October.
But they're not, are these regularly scheduled monthly meetings, or are these just as needed?
Both. So it's basically if there are items on the agenda, it will be on the 3rd Tuesday of every month. If there's no items on the agenda, they don't meet. So there is a regular schedule, but it's as needed based on agenda items.
Any other questions? Yes.
Comment. This decision will impact all the boards down the line because, as Chairman Owens said, when they signed up for this board, they knew it was a position that was not paid. So if we open up Pandora's box here, won't logic follow that we're going to wind up having compensation of similar levels for every board in the county, and thereby increase the budget and taxes on the taxpayers of Castle County in the long run?
Yeah, just to be very honest, if I was on certain boards, and I would be requesting compensation. Because I mean, we know our board members, they volunteer, but, they put a lot of time. Some of them put a lot of time in our boards.
Well, you take a planning board, they get compensated $20 for a meeting. And, of course, the ABC board is separate, but they get compensated. Farm and Lake board does not get compensated. But, as you see, they put a long time and everything about, I would be available and getting $20 per meeting.
We would need a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we compensate the board adjustments $20 per member per meeting.
We have a motion, we need a second.
He made a motion.
He made a motion to do the $20 compensation.
When we pay the planning board, I think it's nothing fair, pay the board adjustment.
Hearing no second, motion fails. Therefore, we just put this off
I'm sure we'll.
until it returns to us. All right, the second item here. Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Yes.
We do have some boards that are compensated. We have some that are not, and as it stated, the boards that are not, we can use when they apply. However, like so many things, you get what you pay for. I would suggest that we consider making this an item for discussion during the next budget. And that way the staff will have time to do some research, look at compensation of all the boards that are currently compensated, and look at the impact on the budget in total. Right now, we haven't had an opportunity to do anything.
And I would agree, as Rick and I said, I would like this to come up at budget time rather than that. Okay. All right, so that's what we'll do, gentlemen. All right, the second request is for us to appoint alternate members to the Board of Adjustment. I would assume we would need to go through the same process that we do with appointing regular members. So therefore, we would need to advertise this 30 days. And at that time, when those names come back before, we'll look at those. And does it say how many? Is it 2 or just 1?
2, Mr. Chairman.
2, okay. I thought I'd seen that somewhere. Okay, so Madam Clerk, if you'll get that advertised, and then when we have applicants for that vacancy, after the 30 days, that will return before us. Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Would we not need to vote on the concept before we advertise? I mean, it sounds like you're
Yes, if you want.
I mean, if you think about this, you want alternates, and you decide to pay them, then the cost for this board goes up even more, because the alternates should be informed of what's going on that board, so that they're ready to step in. So how do you deal with that?
So, Commissioners, just a little bit of background on the reason you may need alternates. And our county planners here, he can definitely jump in if anything that I give you is inaccurate. What I'll say is a lot of the decisions made by the Board of Adjustments needs to have a 4/5 vote. Is that correct? Yes, sir. So the 4/5 vote, if we have 5 members on the Board of Adjustments now, if you don't have one of those members or 2 of those members, you can't achieve the voting requirement made by state statute. So it is advisable to have the alternates serve as alternates and attend these meetings. It would, if you decide to pay them, it would mean additional pay. But our UDO, this is consistent with our UDO. Our UDO says that you can have alternates on the Board of Adjustments. So this is already built in to the casual county plan. We're happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so I kind of stepped ahead, and I guess this board needs to decide whether or not we want to have alternates. Just remember that without an alternate, hopefully nobody will miss it, but,
well, Mr. Chairman, yes, I'm sorry, I should have explained it a little bit better. It's not only missing a meeting, it's sometimes they have to recuse themselves from voting because some of the issues may affect them financially or, some of their family financially. So there's a lot of different reasons that someone on the Board of Adjustments could find them in a position where they need to recuse themselves.
so let's take the alternate issue first, and then we'll take the compensation issue alternate second. Okay? All right, so what's the pleasure of the board concerning alternates? The Board of Adjustment. No motion, I assume we'll not have alternates. And therefore we'll not need to consider compensation for alternates. No, there we are. Okay, item number 12, American Rescue Plan Fund. Well,
Commissioners, during the budget process, the board appropriated $100,000 to help nonprofits respond to COVID-19, create programs to combat COVID-19, and recover from COVID-19. We currently have 2 applications pending. We have an application from Epic Casual, and this is to create outdoor programming that provides youth with the ability to socialize and participate in outdoor recreational activities that have been approved as safe activities by NCDHHS and by the CDC. We also have an application from Piedmont Progressive Farmers Group, and that application is to recover from COVID-19 and other associated losses that occurred during the pandemic due to a decrease in sales to educational, institutional, and market type organizations. Both of these uses are approved uses of the ARP funding. I would ask that the board take these as separate approvals or denials, whichever way the board feels. There's a lot of support for any group that provides programming in the ARP funds. Programming is especially important when you're looking at ARP funds. And the recovery from COVID-19 is also important as well.
And how much
The applications, each application was emailed to you as a board. Piedmont Progressive Farmers is $21,804. And Epic Casual is $10,000.
Okay, any questions before I ask another question? Commissioner Davis?
Get that mask off. Difficult position to be put in. With these two boards, are Mr. Hall and Mr. Williamson being a former commissioner, they're on the boards of both of these that have applied for grants. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Mr. Dixon, let me let you know also, I was going to have to abstain from Piedmont Progressive Farmers, because I am a producer.
You are? Okay. Well, appreciate you doing that, Commissioner McVeigh, but that wasn't even where I was going.
I know, but I want everybody to know up front.
I have two issues with this. We allocated $100,000 for the whole county. And between these two grants, they're asking for $31,000. That's 31% of everything that was budgeted to go countywide. And the fact that it's commissioners coming before this board asking for the money, we're between the devil and the deep blue sea, because if you approve it, you're going to be accused of cronyism. If you don't approve it, you're accused of standing against the cause that they're pushing for. And even if the cause is a valid one, it's still going to be perceived by the public as showing favoritism to commissioners, and I don't want to be put in that position.
Any other comments? We will need to take each of these items separately. I would like to ask Commissioner Hall a question that he may, I guess, can answer, because you said these were programs?
Well, it's programming related.
Oh.
The application for Epic Casual is to take care of a long-needed problem at the outdoor park in downtown Yancey, and that is to provide paved paths for the youth to both play on, for meetings to occur on. So it is programming in nature associated with the meetings of Epic Casual.
I don't have a question.
And I'll say for the application process, the applications were written for up to a $10,000 award. So that was the top award for a grant or an appropriation from what the board appropriated. So having said that, I think Epic Casual falls in line with the grant application that was provided.
Okay. Any other questions? We'll deal with each of these separately. First one being Epic Casual.
Sure.
Yes.
There have been issues in the past that come before this board that involve Epic Casual. In the past, I've always requested permission from the board to recuse myself, and that's what I'm doing at this point. I do request permission to recuse, and the board has to approve that.
Yeah.
I'm going, while we're asking permission to excuse ourselves, I'm going to ask permission to excuse myself from both votes, since one's involved in another commission.
I don't, in all honesty, Mr. Farrell, what's your move? I do not believe you can be excused because another commissioner is involved unless you have some dealings, but.
I don't have any dealings with Epic Casual.
But Mr. Farrell answer.
Yeah, the general recusal standard is, your financial interest, right? So I understand that Mr. Hall's, on the board, conceivably, is involved in an entity that's requesting money from the county. And I think that triggers the, sort of financial interest piece. I didn't quite hear Mr. McVeigh's, rationale. I don't know if he's on the board of either of those organizations or is financially benefiting from them. But that's the large, overarching, prohibition on voting for something that's in your own sort of financial interest.
I'll let him go ahead and say again what you said, so we get it.
Well, evidently I can't do it. I was gonna abstain from voting on either issue, since there were commissioners and myself involved in Piedmont Progressive Farmers, and I'm not involved in Epic Cattle.
Okay, so Epic Caswell then seems fairly straightforward. If you don't have any interest, in it whatsoever. I'm not sure that have you just participated basically in progressive farmer activities? I mean, do you sit on the board? Do you stand to benefit financially from the vote?
From Piedmont Progressive Farmers, I don't sit on the board. I'm just a producer.
Again, I don't think that the financial prohibition on voting on matters in your personal interest is triggered there. But you can certainly,
I just want to chime in. As a producer, Commissioner McVeigh gets paid by Piedmont Progressive Farmers Group for the products that he sells at the markets, at the institutions, and that lost sales during the pandemic. So it is true.
So if there is some compensation then that may flow to Commissioner based on this vote, then I would say, yeah, you're not permitted to vote on it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So let's do.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh,
I'd like to ask Commissioner Hall if he is compensated by the board of Epic.
No.
Do you receive any financial consideration from Epic?
No.
Then I question whether he should be recouped.
Yeah, I mean, again, he is clearly an officer, right? You're an officer of Epic Caswell.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's made the request on behalf of the organization, or he's participated in the request on behalf of the organization to receive some financing for that group. So again, it's not as direct, it seems, perhaps, as Commissioner McVeigh's, but I think it's close enough. If he feels that he's conflicted in that way, that's certainly enough of a question in my mind to support a vote should the board want to take it.
Okay. So board, Commissioner Hall has asked to be excused from this vote. Is that okay with everyone? We need a formal motion on that. Here's it. Okay. Commissioner Hall does not vote on this issue.
We don't get to vote on that. He recused himself. Okay.
Well, the board does have to approve it.
Well, only not approve.
All right.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. One other question before we move to a vote on this. How many other nonprofits have we given money to, or just roughly?
Two to this point, the Pelham Convenient, or the Pelham,
Community Center.
Yes, Community Center, I'm sorry. They received $3,000, between $3,000 and $4,000 grant. And the board said to make payment to the Caswell County Animal Shelter. And so we did that.
Okay. All right, then we need, it's up to the board's pleasure is concerning a $10,000 grant to Epic Castle. We need a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we provide $10,000 to Epic Capital from this fund.
We have a motion, we need a second. We have a second. This time we'll do roll call voting. All those in favor with yes. Commissioner Carter? Commissioner Dickerson?
No.
Commissioner Jeffries? Commissioner McDade? Commissioner Ostriker? Yes. Commissioner Holman, yes. Okay. Now for the second item, which is Piedmont Progressive Farmers. You see that we had placed a limit of $10,000 on these grants?
We have, that was the application limit. I do know that Piedmont Progressive Farmers Group had losses that extended past the $10,000. And they asked if they could apply for more. When they asked if they could apply for more, I said, sure, go ahead and put it in your application. And, but just know this will involve a more thorough review process than probably a regular grant would. And because of the amount and because of the involvement of a former commissioner and a current commissioner, I wanted to bring this before the board for approval, not leave it in my hands.
I have a question on this for the county attorney. For a request to come before the commissioners by a former commissioner and a sitting commissioner is going to financially benefit from this if we get to this fund, is that legal? And at the very least, it's going to seem improper to the people in this county. What is your reply to that?
I think the general prohibition against voting on matters that are for your own financial interest is a statutory one that prohibits conflicts of interest of that nature. I don't believe it prohibits, as long as that member doesn't vote, the board from taking action on the matter otherwise.
So legally you can do it, but morally it isn't right.
I'm not going to characterize it that way, but I do understand the perception issue that you're mentioning.
Thank you.
All right, what's the pleasure of the board concerning the request of Piedmont Progressive Farmers for a $21,000 grant?
I'll make a motion to deny the request.
We have a motion to deny. Need a second? Hearing no second, the motion fails. Again, the pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would move to approve the request of Piedmont Progressive Farmers.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Need a second? We have a second. Any other question? Roll call voting. We'll go back this time to approve the $21,000 grant to Piedmont Progressive Farmers. Commissioner Ostriker.
Wasn't there a $10,000 gap on the approval of the grants? Did you say something about that, Mr. Miller?
So that's the way the grant application was written. If you write grant applications, you need a certain amount of data for a $5,000 grant. If you're asking for more than $5,000, say $10,000, you are expected to be a little bit more thorough than you would for a $5,000 application. This is a $20,000, $21,000, $22,000 application. So it's not so much a cap on the grant. It was, that's the way the grant application was written. It contained enough information to where you can make a decision on a $10,000 appropriation. Now, I'll say that PPFG has provided a lot of information in their application, and you've all been able to review that. It was all emailed to each member. So there was $100,000 appropriated. Currently, we sit at probably $45,000 appropriated with no other pending applications.
So the $10,000 is generally just a number that requires more as they move up, more documentation as to.
That's correct.
Okay, we have any other questions? We have a motion and a second, so we will roll call vote. Commissioner Carter? Commissioner Dickinson?
No.
Commissioner Hall? Commissioner Jeffries? Commissioner Ostriker? No. Commissioner Holman? Aye. Pass.
It's 4-3. Well, 4-2 with one excuse.
Okay. All right. Number 13, surplus of solid waste material handling equipment. Mr. Miller.
So Commissioners, what we're requesting is that the board deem the old, inoperable, and seized solid waste material handling equipment recently replaced with the purchase of the new equipment as surplus. We'll move through the process to sell or dispose of the old equipment if the board approves the surplus.
That is the equipment we're replacing now. The new.
One of the major issues is right now we can't move the equipment because it's stuck in its current location with the arm down over the side. So we really need the piece of equipment moved. And we need it gone so we can operate the new equipment. So that's why we're asking for the equipment to be surplus.
How you gonna move it then?
We're going to allow, probably put in the proposal package that whoever wins the bid is responsible for moving.
So if we do not get the bid, could happen. How are we gonna move it? We're gonna need to move it anyway, correct?
Yes, if we don't get a bid to move it, what we'll do is contract with some local people here to help us remove the hydraulics, hoist the arm up. Those are things that are beyond the capabilities of our solid waste and maintenance crew. So we'll contract with some local folks to help us do that. And we'll get it done and get it out of the way. But it would just be easier and less time consuming if we had a company come in and do it and was willing to take the equipment along with it as part of the purchase.
Any other questions? We need a motion to surplus the solid waste material handling equipment.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion with solid waste piece of equipment at the landfill.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
I'll second that.
We have a second. Roll call voting. All those in favor, we give Commissioner Carter, Commissioner Dickinson, Commissioner Hall, Commissioner Jeffries, Commissioner McVeigh, Commissioner Ostriker, Commissioner Holman, aye.
You know, while we got the solid waste, director here, can I ask a question? For you?
Come on up.
Hey, Jay.
Just realize, I don't know what you're gonna ask, but he may not be prepared to have actual figures to answer it, just in case.
I had several complaints about the trash and illegal people from Virginia. And I went to public service to pick up some school. So I said, well, I'm just gonna check and see. When I went by there, it was a car from Virginia, the truck from Virginia, they had 4 containers on the back, they were dumping it over in the trash station. But when I come back from the fire department picking sewers, 2 more cars from Virginia. Have we put up any cameras over there, anything?
There is cameras there, but the ordinance is not strong enough still for us to be able to enforce it.
I mean, what can we do? I know I think you, Brian, you talked to the sheriff.
Wait, just a minute.
The ordinance,
The ordinance is the ordinance. The ordinance was passed by the Board of Commissioners and is the law in Calhoun County. If a magistrate won't uphold the ordinance, the magistrate won't uphold the ordinance. But the ordinance is the law in Calhoun County as passed by this Board of Commissioners. If there's things that we need to do to the ordinance, then we need to do those things to get the magistrates in favor of it. But what we have in the ordinance is the law passed by this Board of Commissioners.
correct.
So the phrase that the ordinance isn't strong enough is a little bit misleading. It is the law.
Right, that's not maybe the correct term, but we were still working on the ordinance, I guess, is what I was saying,
That's correct.
with the sheriff's office and the board.
And we plan, commissioners, as you know, we've had zoning and several other things going on. The county and I touch base quite regularly here and there on, we still have to set up the meeting with the DA and the ADA and the sheriff and the board. We are planning on going through that process, but until we got through zoning and all the other associated additional meetings, we didn't want to add that in onto your plates or our plates at that time.
It wouldn't take definitely, all we have to do, you don't have to sit there an hour, and I'm sure we could write a bunch of tickets, but, one that Brian over there told me that, said, well, that's not surprising, because he went by there with somebody from Virginia come to traffic, sitting there drinking a drink, eating a cake or something, and he just moved his head up. We can sit there an hour or so and write all the tickets, but once you start writing a few tickets and the word get out, it's like over off of Mayfield Road, Virginia's got tickets. The guy went over to North Carolina, helped another guy that had to unload trash, and the deputy said, sir, I'm gonna give you a warning this time. But he said, well, I'm not dumping trash, I'm just helping him. He said, that don't make a difference with tax in North Carolina. But, I mean, it is being done around those areas.
So just real quickly, Mr. Fuqua, can you expand on how many people we've prosecuted in the last year for illegal dumping?
Myself has prosecuted 5 people, and the sheriff's department has also prosecuted some, but I'm not sure, taking their own charges out, I'm not sure the total. I know it's at least 5 to 10 people that has been to court for illegal dumping.
So I don't want the misconception to be that we're not following through on these types of things, but being right there at the state line, it is much more likely and probably happens with a larger occurrence.
What do you think we put a sign up, said, dumping North Carolina residents on it?
So, no, we can't do that. We can put signs up that say Calhoun County residents only.
So just the other week, for example, in Providence, I was there checking the site. Virginia car pulled in. I went and talked to him, told him who I was. It was a male and a female. The male was from Virginia. He was hauling his daughter's trash. She had her light bill and everything to identify she was a Calhoun County resident, but didn't own a truck, so her dad came out and hauled the trash. But they were checked because they had Virginia tags.
That's why these dumpsters, these trash sites, but federal property stand for you, you get Calhoun County residents, West Virginia.
So I assume this board would say, let's go ahead and try to do that meeting as soon as we can.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
So we can get it started. And all be on the same page.
Mr. Chief, have we got the new book?
No, sir. We're waiting on the grapple to get here to get it installed.
Still waiting on the grapple?
Yes, sir. I'll check on it this week and see if we can get a closer date.
Anything else?
I would just like to reiterate what Mr. Carter said. This problem's been going on for a while. we need to have a solution to this. And if that's enforcement, increased fines for out-of-county people or non-residents of Castle County dumping trash here, I would like to have that explored thoroughly. I think that the fine of $500 is not really enough when you're talking about the taxpayers of this county having to foot the bill for everything someone dumps in here illegally. We need to follow through what we were talking about, have a public awareness campaign and start enforcing this with increased fines and stop this problem and be fair to our taxpayers.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. County manager's updates.
Commissioners, I have 3 or 4 updates for you real quick. I just want to inform the board that we have reached the point of substantial completion on the Bartlett-Yancey High School, and the certificate of substantial completion has been issued to the contractor and to us. That means that the high school can start storing a lot of the furniture and things like that they need to reopen inside the building while the contractor finishes the punch list. I do want to inform the board that due in part to the retirement of a tenured employee at the library, we're going to move a library assistant 1 into a full-time position. He's currently at 34 hours a week. We're going to move him to about 40 hours a week. The cost of that move will be about $4,000 a year. So it's very minor cost adjustment, but it very well may be offset by the retirement of a tenured employee we have. So we're having questions about that.
So we're not intending to hire anyone in that retiring position?
Oh, yeah, yes, we'll rehire someone in that position. But, you know, as you escalate through years of service, your salary increases. So starting back over at minimums, we plan to see.
And we will keep this person at 40 hours at that time when we hire somebody?
Yes.
Okay. That's just what I want to know.
The employee's currently at 36 hours, so it's really only 4 hours a week we're talking about, 4 hours a week difference. And, you know, it helps with the continuity of operations for the library to have additional people able to work evening hours, weekend hours, so on and so forth. I do want to inform the board that I have received a public records request for copies of all correspondence between representatives of Caswell County and Senator Phil Berger between the dates of August 10th, 2021 and August 30th, 2021. So what I'll ask the members of the board to do is, if you have correspondence from between yourself and Senator Phil Berger or his office during those dates, please send those to me so we can compile and complete the public records request. And I'd ask you to do that by this upcoming Friday, kind of put a time limit on it, and that way we know when to get the information back. Other than that, I was explaining to Mr. Carter, because of the lack of cars that we have available for auction right now, there are some items, some office items, some old desks, some old bookshelves, and things like that at Guilford Mills in offices that have been vacated. We would usually include those in a bulk surplus. The board's given me authorization to surplus items up to $500. If it's okay with the board, I'll go ahead and surplus some of those items myself and move forward with that. If not, we can store them, but Guilford Mills is kind of old and damp and musky, especially on wood furniture and things like
I would agree, we don't need to store anything that we're not using, may need.
And I sincerely think that the value of the items, if we can find a buyer for them, will be less than combined total $200.
Is that all you're up to?
Yes, unless there's any objection from the board, that's the way I want to move forward.
Commissioner Stryker?
I just want, could you repeat the dates on the communication? Period of time covered.
The dates on what?
Communication between the commissioner and Senator Burke.
Yes, August 10th of 2021 and August 30th of 2021.
All right. At this time, Commissioner comments? Commissioner Carter? Commissioner Stryker?
None that are fit to print.
Commissioner McVeigh? Commissioner Jeffries?
The only thing I've got is, well, President, we still got the same problem with Jack Corner Road, I ain't seen nothing.
At which road?
Jack Corner Road. Well, actually, since man, I like to jump in that people's complaint.
Yes, Matthew Conlon. He has, there are certain time periods that they have to comply with letters that they're sent. If they, and they may not respond. If they do not respond, then we issue civil penalties. So I can't tell you where we are right now, but if you want to stay for a minute or two after the meeting, I'm happy to call the planning director to find out.
Well, how about this? Would you find out and just send an email to all of us?
Yes.
That all are aware the steps have already been taken.
Yes.
So we'll know. But you can find out after the meeting as well.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hall?
Yes, I received a complaint from a very irate senior citizen concerning grass around the senior center. And I don't know why this citizen was so upset, but he was. And his concern was that we're getting the grass cut, but we're not weeding around the edge of the building. And so I assured him that I would talk to somebody about that. And I'm pretty sure if that's the case, we can find somebody to do a little weeding.
So just to bring the board up to speed on what, after some of our recent conversations, I've requested at least one quote for doing all the county trimming, weed eating, mowing, just to assess the viability of moving in that direction without adding additional staff. So hopefully we should get that quote back soon, and that would address this situation.
Commissioner Davis? Okay, I have just two things, really. First of all, there are numerous bills that are either in committee or getting ready to hit the floor that I'm going to send out to you to make you aware of and get your feedback. If there's any we need to be concerned about. For instance, I know there is one that refers to taking land and putting it under wildlife. I can't remember the exact way it was worded. But I think it's a concern that there would be a reduction in the amount of value of the land that we can tax. I think it's something we have to be concerned about. You know, we don't have the luxury of anything other than property tax, really, to supplant what we do, and we need to be concerned. But I'll send that out so you can read over. None of those are, but there is one that has passed that I want to make everybody aware of. Starting in October, and I'm not sure what the date is, there will be ATVs conforming to certain standards allowed in certain highways in North Carolina. It is up to DOT to determine which roads they are allowed on, not this board. So I want to make you aware of that. They have to meet, they do have to meet certain requirements. And I'll send that to you as well. That's already been passed. But I think we need to be aware that that could happen in Castle. I've been meaning to go by DOT and check with them to see what roads they have designated, and it may be all of them. I don't know. There are certain speed limits, requirements, that sort of thing, as far as roads that are legal for them to be on. But I wanted to make the board aware of that. I was not aware of that until a constituent called me. And I began to research and found out that deal is already passed and takes effect this month. So I'll be sending out some bills through our clerk that you can look at, and if you have any concerns about it, just send that information to me and we'll look at that at a later date.
Has it been signed into law by
The ATV, it's become effective October 1st.
Not a lot of things been signed.
Evidently, this one has been signed by all necessary, so, because it is classified as a Senate bill law. The other thing I want to, and I started to do this when we were dealing with the zoning issue, but I decided to wait. I'm a little concerned about our planning board in this aspect. Number one, they have a statutory requirement that they are to do. And evidently they did it in the first letter, saying that there were no issues with the current zoning map with our land use policy or comprehensive plan. And then for them to turn around and try to rescind that letter when it's not true. There are no problems that the map had with the comprehensive plan that bothers me. They stepped outside of their realm of authority. Either they messed up on the first time and it didn't meet those requirements, or the second time they decided they just didn't want to say it. And I'm not trying to bring zoning back up. I just have a concern about that. But the biggest concern is the last part of that letter. Our planning board is designed for a specific purpose. They can have all the private opinions they want, and they can express those outside. But when they represent the Calhoun County Planning Board, I do not think it's appropriate for that board to make a political statement. And they have to remember, as well as all boards, we appoint members and we dismiss members. We can't dismiss members. And I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying it's very disappointing to see a board representing Calhoun County take on a political atmosphere. And it just bothers me. So it's something we need to be very careful about with our boards. When they're representing Calhoun County, and they have a statutory requirement to do certain things, that's what they need to state and nothing else. So that's my opinion.
You know, I think you brought it up, I was thinking the same thing. I didn't want to bring up this talking about zoning, but most of these boards are just advisory boards to the commission. And I don't think none of them should take a stance, a political stance, on whether it's for something or against.
On the price time, I could care less. It just bothered me. So I just wanted to get that out of my chest today. Announcements and upcoming events. Commissioner Hall, we got the Cyclone North Carolina still on the way. Rain or shine.
And I'll tell the commissioners that we are planning food for Cyclone North Carolina. So if you're in the area or you want to come by, we'll have food here available for you.
We have a rest stop, I guess it is, in Cherry at the fire department. Is that right? Okay. And then of course, we'll have a main stop here in Yancey at the pavilion where the food and lunch will be as they come through. So we're looking forward to that. So if you get a chance to come by and speak to some of them. It's, what time are we expecting riders?
He said between 9:30 and 1.
Okay, so. All right, any other announcements, upcoming events? Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh,
I will say, maybe we saved the best for last. We have our local health director with us. And if you would like a COVID-19 update, she can provide us with a COVID-19 update.
okay, yeah.
And Mr. Chairman, don't forget as you're wrapping up today that you were going to consider adjourning to a time and date certain for the continuation of this meeting for your redistricting discussion.
5 o'clock tomorrow at the library.
At the library.
Listen, we can't hear you if you're talking.
Good morning. I don't really have a big update. Our numbers dipped a little bit last week. They've gone back up this past week. And we're continuing to follow the latest guidance for vaccination. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but there's not a lot of new news to share.
Any questions from the board on COVID-19?
Is it coming down or going up?
She said the numbers have come down a little bit.
But they went back up this week.
They went back up this week? I'm sorry.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, we were at 140, 3 weeks ago, we were at 142 cases. 2 weeks ago, it dipped down to 85, and this past week, we were back up to 100. So we just kind of had a little dip, and we look like we're going up just a little bit again.
Thank you. All right, gentlemen, at this time, we're going to recess this meeting until tomorrow evening, Tuesday evening at 5 o'clock at the public library.
To discuss.
Redistrict. Thank you, Madam Mayor. All right, gentlemen, thank you.